I'll take a double triple bossy deluxe on a raft, 4x4 animal style, extra shingles with a shimmy and a squeeze, light axle grease, make it cry, burn it and let it swim.
We serve food here, sir.
Yo! Welcome to a sorta, kinda untimely review. I mean, a month after release is enough time, right? A timely review doesn't even have the same pizzazz anyway. But we're here much earlier than usual for a movie that even without seeing it, probably shouldn't have been made. But let's just get right into the story. Major spoilers for nostalgia bait served with this side of the feeling of getting old. We begin with a song and dance number that isn't even in the same ballpark as the inclusive banger, We're All Dudes, but at least Ed still has the voices in his head to keep him company, and even though he got a card in the original, you know what? I'm in a good mood for once. So, Ed, a simple man who loves simple plans. Then we get a Pete Davidson jump scare, so I do have to dock points for that, but we get the iconic
"Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger, can I take your order?"
with the intro logo and a cover of We're All Dudes that just kinda sucks. Then we finally get to see what Dex has been up to after seeing him put every acronym and title he could afford on his door. So here's Dex. Definitely tried selling a Forex course at least twice. Now, Dex is trying to raise capital for his invention, Burn No More, which is supposed to stop anything from catching on fire. Notice the supposed to in that last sentence because he decides to test it on his house, and it goes up in flames. Then Mark Cuban flexes on him because even though he's taking a step back from Shark Tank and the Mavs, he still needs to drop verbal money spreads on people any chance he gets. Dex gets evicted from his office in the span of like 3 hours. We find out that he actually has a sister that wasn't in the first movie for whatever reason, and we find out that even though Dex is still very much a bad person, he did keep the yo-yo that Ed gave him, so I guess he gets some points from me. With nowhere to go, Dex travels from wherever he is to wherever Ed is. Dex then stands in the middle of the street to be hit by Ed because even though both of these characters might be 20 years older, they will not learn any lessons, which I'm sure won't be a recurring thing in this. When they do end up getting to Good Burger, Ed introduces the new staff, starting with Mindy and Cindy. Halves the work, doubles the confusion. Ruth, she's not slow, you're just very fast. And in the biggest twist of the movie, Ed's son, who's literally named Ed 2.
Whoa, it's like I'm looking at a mirror with my picture taped on it.
Dex's niece, Mia, Guinness World Record holder for youngest cyber criminal. But there's also the back of nameless cashier number 3, and because he's a part of the family here at Good Burger, he should get a card too. He's a dude! With most of the team accounted for, Dex catches up with Mia, and we find out that Dex scammed her mom 6 years ago. But none of that family drama matters because we get a cameo from Lori Beth Denberg. And it's at this point that I have to say, I was wrong, but only kinda. This movie definitely still didn't need to be made, but it still has a very fun energy to it, and it does at least feel way more genuine than I thought we would get. But we still got over an hour left, so we'll have to see if they keep that up. After Dex and Mia talk for a bit more, since Dex is crashing at Ed's house, we get to see how he's living, and we find out that he's taken a lot of ideas from fellow Nickelodeon star Nick Cannon because he's got another 6 kids named after different things that you'd read on like a Burger King receipt. But when we're introduced to the newest member of Ed's family, we see that Roxanne is Ed's nanny because she's a nun, and nuns can't get married, which was not a thing that I knew, so very nice to be getting some knowledge from this movie. But we do actually get to see Ed's wife, Edie. Now, I don't do this very often.
Why the fuck you lying?
But I've never been so entranced by a beautiful goddess like yourself before. So if you need some time away from the kids or Ed, I'm just a call away. PR's Grab Bag does not endorse dirty macking, sleazeballing, attempted cuckolding, cheating, or general dirtbag behavior. I just think this is funny. She is very pretty though. Ed and Dex then roleplay an interview since Dex is trying to work at Good Burger because his life is just in shambles, and we meet the manager, Mr. Jensen. Store manager is his profession. Simping is his passion. He just like me for real. And we find out that Ed doesn't just work at Good Burger, he owns the place, which of course means that the scamming gears in Dex's mind start to turn. But before he can tell Ed his plan, they find out that Fizz has been stuck in the freezer for 22 years. Oh yeah, Fizz! Ed then gets a visit from a lawyer from Megacorp, who's trying to get Ed to sell Good Burger, and it's at this point where we're doing like a one-to-one story remake from the first movie, and I did expect some of that, but I'm really hoping they don't just rehash everything, but I do hope that the dresses make a return. Once that's done, they get a delivery order from fictional singer Luna Fox because they couldn't afford to get Shaq again, I guess. But this time, we do actually get some character work out of this scene, so that's a nice change. The good gang hang out at a roller rink, but Ed gets Ednapped by the Plat Pack while Dex tells Mia his new idea. Permanent ice. While that's happening, Ed does actually just get away from his captors using ball-related hijinks, and we pick up the next day with Ed and his new grill, because he has one now. But after he flexes on his employees, the lawyer from earlier pops back up to flex on Dex to try and convince him to get Ed to franchise out Good Burger. Dex gets Ed to agree to a meeting with the lawyer guy, whose name we now know is Cecil. Bizarro World Saul Goodman. We get a super salad joke, which makes me think this movie was first written like 10 years ago, but they end up signing the contract, so Good Burger is going global, baby. We find out that Mindy and Cindy like to get down with the swirl, and we get a dance routine soundtracked by Young Gravy for some reason. They couldn't afford one of his good songs, but it's better than the songs that have been played so far, so I guess I'll take it. We then find out that because neither of them actually read the contract, although this is definitely 100% on Dex, the original Good Burger is just getting shut down. So the party turns sad very quickly, which means Dex has now destroyed 2 businesses in the span of like 4 days. Back at Ed's place, Dex is trying to figure out how to get Good Burger back, and Ed's response is to make an Imagine video, which is both his worst and maybe actually funniest joke he's made so far, but only because we got to get George Clinton again, so I'm happy with it. After all that, they decide to just go to Megacorp and ask them, please don't honor the contract we signed. So, of course, it's now time for everyone's favorite game show, What Happens Next? Copyright pending. We've got 4 answers for you, folks. Play at home, see if you can get the right one. Dance off. Movie ends. The villain from the first movie, Sister, is the villain in this movie. Edie leaves Ed for me. If you picked The Family Grudge, you'd be correct. And you'd win nothing, because we don't have the budget for that.
Now back to the show.
And this is where we find out that the person who orchestrated this whole thing is Kat Boswell. Get you a woman this obsessed with you. With that introduction out of the way, we get to see what Kat's plan is. Replace everyone with robots, which, given all of the film studios literally trying to do that, I can see where this is going, and good for the writers to make a movie about why that's really fucking stupid and having one of those studios pay for it. For some reason, they didn't have Kat re-record her line here.
Well, too bad, so sad. Not on my time. You poo on your own time.
But if they don't care, neither do I. Kat then burns the Burgermobile so they don't have a way back to Good Burger, and then Ed and Dex decide to get into the autonomous car controlled by the lady that hates them, because if there's a bad decision to be made, you can they're gonna choose that one. After that extended scene of vehicular violence where no cops investigated the car doing donuts in the park for several hours, Ed calls the good gang together to get them all in on their plan to take down Megacorp. Of course, at first, no one wants a part of it, but after Ed's rousing, non-verbal speech using only the power of his eyebrows, he gets everyone on board. So, using the guise of an independent news crew as well as bringing in a new Edbot, the gang sneak their way into Megacorp's headquarters so that Mia can hack into their mainframe and destroy all their robots. And then nothing went according to plan. So instead, they get Ruth and Ed too to do a dance routine to distract everyone, which means they already had this routine planned out and ready to go because they weren't actually involved in this plan. And with everything we've seen so far, that might actually be the most believable part of this movie. Then the fact that Mindy and Cindy are twins comes into play for one part of the plan, which is nice to see because I really do love Double Trouble. We get a food fight chase scene in this movie too, while, no joke, a fucking remix of the Hamburger Cheeseburger Big Mac Whopper song plays because I don't know what's going on. I like it though. Once that's over, Mia gets herself stuck in the Fry Maker-inator, but Dex risks his life in a way that wouldn't have been my first choice, but Mia's safe, so that's all that matters. Ed was too busy playing a video game to do what he was supposed to do, same, so it's looking like Kat is gonna get her way. During the global grand opening of all the different Good Burgers, this dude is way too excited about some meat and buns, but then we find out that Ed actually reprogrammed everything to go haywire, which is something he can do apparently. So across the world, we get a montage where we see all the Robo-Eds freaking out and attacking people like Mark Strong's brother, but the only one that doesn't really make sense is the one in Texas, because there's zero shot, no one shot the Edbot the moment it raised its arm crazy. Anyway, the Robo-Eds also have laser eyes, because if you're gonna design a friendly robot to peddle low nutritional value foodstuffs to people, you gotta include a way to get rid of some of the rowdy people too. So Kat's big night is ruined, Dex and Mia finally hug it out, Good Burger is back where it belongs in the hands of Ed, we see that UPN has made a return, maybe with some new episodes of The Parkers, we get a lesson about the importance of the human element in life, we get to see Dex's sister and they finally make up even though he still owes her an untold amount of money, and Ed too crashes into the restaurant causing thousands of dollars in property damage and probably some manslaughter too. But this is supposed to be a happy ending, so let's not dwell too much on the details. But the movie's not over yet. During the end credit scene, because all movies have to have that, we find out that Ed too figured out how to make permanent ice, and the funniest thing Dex does in the entire movie is to get Mark Cuban to give him $10 million for 0% of his company, and now I get why he decided to leave Shark Tank, because there's no way you come back from that. And the movie ends on a poetic note because it ends with a rendition of We're All Dudes, but because it's a remix, it's just not nearly as good as the original. And now that the story's out of the way, what did I think? I mean, the story is really just a retread of the one they told back in '97 with a few updates, but those updates don't really change too much. In fact, if you line the movies up, there's recreations of scenes happening within like 5 minutes of each other. In the video I did for the original, I said that it was a silly little movie where I don't mind that characters were acting dumb, and this movie is still like that, but part of the charm of the original to me was that it was pretty low stakes. It was just one burger spot against another. But here, you have a mega conglomerate against an internet famous burger spot, and everything is a little too big for what I think should be a smaller story to highlight the cast of weirdo characters. I do think that making Ed still be the star of the show was the best decision, because like, look at the guy, he's made for this type of stuff. But it does also kind of feel like the rest of the cast took even more of a backseat than the original this time. But don't get me wrong, this movie is still fun. There's still a lot of moments that had me dying, and I was thinking that this was going to be the most soulless and corporate nostalgia bait that I've ever seen. But luckily, it's not like that at all. Sure, the movie isn't perfect. There's some very strange product placement, like with the DoorDash ad and the Boston Dynamics robot, all the songs except for the Pitbull one, and like a couple of bars from the I'm a Dude remix are pretty trash, and the vibe feels like they're trying to recreate something that was a product of its time while not fully committing to this version of it, so it doesn't really feel like it's translating as well. But I still did have fun watching it. In my video on the original, I said, let's hope that they don't make Good Burger 2, because there's talks of it. I don't want it. I don't want any more sequels. Fuck the sequels. And one of the reasons why I wasn't excited for this when I first heard about it is because I thought the time for needing a sequel had passed and that there was no way this was going to live up to the original. And I still don't think that it does, but that doesn't mean that this movie is bad either. I think one of the main reasons the original still holds up is because even though it's a movie of an era I only experienced through reruns, it works as an encapsulation of that era. Whether or not you actually like what Nickelodeon was doing at that time, especially in the live action space, Good Burger still fits well inside it. With Nickelodeon just devolving into the SpongeBob show over the past 10 or so years, this doesn't really fit in, and honestly, I haven't watched a single live action show they put out since Sam and Cat, so maybe this feels in line with whatever's going on in shows like,
What the fuck? I know that ain't who I think it is.
wait, who the fuck let Tyler Perry have a show on Nickelodeon? What is happening over there? Come on, what are we doing? Anyway, I think my problem comes from expecting something. Anything that justifies retreading the same beats in something from 20 years ago instead of making something interesting, either in that world if you really need that nostalgia bait, or doing more than just saying, hey, hey, remember that? This is like the same thing, but with only 80% of the charm. Like, this movie doesn't even feel modern. This could have been really made any time in the last 20 years, and I don't think it would be much different. The commentary on a larger company trying to swallow up a smaller one is literally the plot of the first one, so that's not different. There's no politically influenced commentary from the last 20 years, so there's nothing new there either. Good Burger 1 feels distinctly 90s, and sure, that's partly because I'm looking back at it within that context. But what about this movie feels like the 2020s or even the 2010s? It doesn't. Unless you want to talk about the soulless parading around of dead franchises to soak up that sweet nostalgia money. But I don't think this movie hits any theme like that, and I wouldn't even say that the movie feels soulless from a production standpoint either. The only thing that's even remotely relevant is the Imagine parody, but without the context of COVID, I don't even think it works as anything more than just a random cutaway joke. Listen, Good Burger 2 is just largely a rehash, but I do think it's a loving one. And luckily, they did bring back the original writers, which helps to keep a lot of the charm of the first movie, and there's no Dan Schneider involved, because fuck Dan Schneider, so this movie does at least have that over the original, I guess. But that's all I got for the story. I do want to talk about our two main characters, though, because like I said before, the rest of the team don't really do much, although I do want to shout out Alex R. Hibbert, who played Ed 2, because bro embodies Ed so well that if they were seriously just gonna remake Good Burger, he would be the perfect fit for Ed. All right, now let's talk about our two main characters. One thing that I've always criticized Kenan Thompson for is that as he got older, unless he was playing a very outlandish character, it always felt like he was just phoning it in. Back during the OG All That days, and even sometimes in Kenan and Kel, obviously he was gonna be more of the level-headed one because Kel was out being a gremlin somewhere. But when Kenan can get a little crazy, I think he's pretty good. Unfortunately, that only really happens once in the movie when they're infiltrating Megacorp near the end, but I wish we got more moments like that in this movie. In the original, Kenan is playing more into the fact that he's, playing an actual character and has some more fun with it. Here, he's more reserved, and while that could come from age, I guess, he's still making the same dumb decisions, so it's not like he's really changed all that much. Kel, on the other hand, as Ed is, well, what'd you expect? He's 90% of what makes this movie as good as it is. From physical comedy to him just making noises, Kel as Ed is always gonna make me laugh, and him just being a silly little guy for an hour and a half, even though it's like 20 years too late, it's still gonna be worth it to me. I still don't really get why Kel never seemed to get out from the Nickelodeon umbrella, and that's not to say that he hasn't been in other things, or even that he should. Maybe he really doesn't want to, but I really hope Bro can get his flowers, because even though both the roles that I love him for are like the exact same dude, if Denzel Washington can be revered for playing the same dude in 80% of his roles, Kel should be revered too. Our main villain, Kat, played by Jillian Bell, didn't really do much, but it seemed like she had fun, so that was cool. And the only other person that I'm gonna bring up is Laurel as Cecil, because like Kel, he's also from Chicago, so I will support him until he does something I don't like. This isn't really a movie that you sit down and analyze the complexities of the interpersonal relationships and how they feed into the themes present. If the movie made you laugh, it's good enough. But with all that being said, overall, for me, this movie is very weird. But not for the obvious reasons. It's because it's like the exact same movie, and I know I keep saying that, but until you watch both movies, you won't get how similar they are. Now, is the movie fun? Yes. Did I enjoy the movie? Yes. If this movie was the first one made after the sketch, would I think it's better than it actually is? Probably. But because it's not, it just feels unnecessary. Like, who exactly was this movie for? If you loved Good Burger, this doesn't do anything to really expand that world except that Ed now has children. And they brought back Lori Beth Denberg, Josh Server, Carmen Electra, Shar Jackson, who played Monique in the first movie but plays herself in this one for some reason, and even Sinbad according to IMDb apparently. But they couldn't get Linda Cardellini to make a cameo? For me? Infinitely worse film. 0 out of 10. Would not watch again. But what did you think? Was it worth defrosting this old franchise for a quick meal? Or was the freezer burn, aka no Linda, too much to stomach? Let me know in the comment section below. Mayhaps like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.